We are making the fluffiest and most delicious cheddar bacon biscuits that we are going to spread with maple butter. Today we're going to revisit an old episode or an old recipe, which are my flaky biscuits, and honestly they're the best biscuits. They're easy, they're simple, they're delicious. I am not going to be using self-rising flour. I'm making my own self-rising flour, which is just flour and leavening agents, but these biscuits are insanely good. I'm going to add some crispy bacon and sharp cheddar and some deliciously green, yummy green onions. Or you can also use some, I was going to say shallots, but I meant to say, I can't think of the word, chives. That's what I meant to say. You can use chives as well, and they're delicious. They're very, very good. Slathered with maple butter. Oh my goodness gracious, you're gonna go nuts. What I'm doing here is I'm just cooking some bacon that I have finely diced. And what I find the easiest thing to do is to take your bacon, and when you buy a whole pack of bacon, I never use a whole pack in one go. I go ahead and pop it into the freezer, and then every time I need a slice of bacon, you actually cut. I'm gonna show you. It's a helpful hint. It's a helpful tip, I should say. Anytime I need a slice of bacon, you just cut one about quarter-inch slice that way, and then you have the equivalent to one slice of bacon if you need it crumbled. If not, just peel it and use one slice at a time if you want to use it that way. But it's helpful for me because I never get to use an entire thing of bacon in one go. While that crisps up, I'm going to go ahead and grate some really sharp cheddar. You can use yellow, white, you could also use pepper jack, you could use really any cheese that you like. I always think cheddar, some bacon, and scallions just go together really well. Think like topping on a baked potato type of vibe. They go together really well, so that's why I'm going this route, but you can really use whatever you like. In my large bowl, I've got some all-purpose flour, a tiny bit of sugar, which I know is controversial. I do feel like I like the balance, and I also like that it allows my biscuits to just develop a really beautiful color. Baking powder, baking soda, and salt. Give that a quick mix. You can do this in a food processor if you want to. I tend to think when you make biscuits, it's better to do it by hand to avoid over mixing, because you don't want to melt that butter. You want that cold butter to remain as cold as possible. And I'm just using a pastry cutter. You can also just do this with your fingers, or you can use a fork. And I'm just getting in there, and I am just cutting that butter as small as I can without melting it. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to avoid using my hands as much as possible, because your hands hold heat. And so as you mix this more and more by hand, you'll melt that butter more and more, and you'll run the risk of not getting a really flaky biscuit if you overwork it. So just come in here, and if you cut your butter into small enough pieces, you won't have to do this for very long. You can see that just took me less than a minute, and it's exactly where I want it. So now at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and add my buttermilk. I would say you can do this with a buttermilk substitute, which would be taking whole milk and just adding a splash of vinegar or a lemon. I don't think that works the same. That does work well in other baked goods, say if you're making a cake or anything like that where it calls for buttermilk, or muffins. I think when it comes to biscuits, you have to use the real thing. I think a lot of it has to do with the right acidity, because scientifically, when that mixes with the baking soda and the baking powder, you get a really great lift because there's no eggs in here. And also, I think the texture is very different. It's much thicker. It's almost like the thickness of yogurt, and that's what you're looking for. And I just start by hand, just using a fork before I go in with my hands, just to gather it into a shaggy dough. And then we're gonna add the shredded cheddar, the cooked and cooled bacon, and the chopped scallions. Whoa. Add your cheese and scallions. Add your cold bacon. Don't add hot bacon, because again, you'll melt that butter, and that's just not what we're going for. Give that a quick mix before dumping it on your surface. You can also just do it like that, but I find that on your work surface just works a little bit better. Avoid adding any additional flour just yet. And you're gonna do your best to not overwork this, but just pull it together. If you're gonna use any tool to help you bring your dough together, let it be a bench scraper. It's like the perfect job to lift everything off of your work surface and push it into itself. And I also want you to see the butter is still in there. So I'm trying to work this as little as possible. You see the butter pieces right there, really important. And then what I like to do to create even more flakiness, I cut this down the middle, place it on top, and push it down. And if there's any stragglers, just push them in there. And again, don't overwork it if you can help it. That might look straggly a bit, but that is fine. And then I'm gonna do that one more time, and that is creating lots of pockets for possible goodness of flaky deliciousness. And this is pretty much it. At this point, I'm not gonna pull it apart or anything else any further. Look how beautiful it came together. Everything pretty much got absorbed. This is where I want it. I want you to see the interior. And I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this with some plastic wrap and pop it into the fridge for a bit to get it nice and cold. My biscuit dough has been in the fridge about an hour. I have my oven preheated to 400. I've got a baking sheet lined with parchment paper. You can also make these at a cast iron skillet. The only thing I'll say is if you're gonna do that, just make sure you give them some space because they do need space to rise, because if they all touch, they won't rise as much. And we want a flaky biscuit, you know? This is looking perfect. I'm going to very lightly dust my work surface, not heavily. And you can see it's really sort of craggly. You can see the bits of butter everywhere throughout the dough. That is a really beautiful thing to see. You see that? That's what you want to see. A little sprinkle on top. You could probably just do this with your hands, but again, your hands are warm, so it's just easier to use a rolling pin and just dust it with flour to keep it from sticking every now and again. And we're just gonna roll this out to about a 1/2 inch thickness. Ideally, you want it sort of a mix between a 1/2 inch and 3/4 of an inch, and that looks perfect. So now you have choices because life is full of them. You can go with a Big Daddy of a 3 1/4 inch biscuit cutter. If you have a 3 inch exact, use that, or you can do with a 2 3/4. The choice is yours. I'm gonna go with the 3 inch because go big or go home, right? And these are gonna be gorgeous, darling. Gorgeous. Beautiful. And then when you are done cutting these out, just regroup the dough and just re-roll it best you can without warming it up too much. That's like a perfect one right there. Biscuits look good. I got a couple of really big ones and then I did a few smaller ones, and these were, you can tell, these were the ones that I regrouped once I cut them out initially. So I'm just taking a little bit of buttermilk and I like to just brush the tops. I feel like it gives them really beautiful color. And these are gonna go into my preheated oven at 400 for between 10 and 15 minutes, somewhere in between there. My biscuits literally just came out and look how gorgeous they look. Oh my gosh, they're piping hot. But before we move on to those, let's make a maple butter. All you need for that is softened butter and then the amount of maple syrup to taste. So I always like to do half the amount of butter to maple syrup. So there's 3 tablespoons of butter there. So you want about 1.5 tablespoons of maple syrup, and you're just gonna mix it together, and then you're gonna get the best of all worlds. And it's just, mix it really good. It's ugly, but mix it real good, you know? And then you can keep it in those like really fancy butter crocks if you want. The combination of the buttery sweetness with that bacon, cheddar. I'll go to the, well, I'll show you this one because it's really, these are the ones that, you know what? These are the ones I refolded. So I just want to give you a proper experience. Look at them. Look at that flakiness. You see that? is just insane. They just came out of the oven, so they're very, very hot, as you can tell. But if you can resist a hot biscuit, we can't be friends. We can't be friends. Slather it with that maple butter. It smells insane. Insane. Listen. Listen. Nothing to say. It's like the best thing I ever ate. You're gonna flip over these. They are so good. There are no words. All the flavors on point. The biscuits itself is so light. Perfection. That sweetness from the maple butter completes it. It is next level. Go to laurainthekitchen.com to get the recipe. You have to make these. Please make them this weekend. It would be great for a brunch. These as the base to like biscuits and gravy. Hold on to me because I would not survive. Go get the recipe, make them. You will love them. I will see you in the next one. Bye. Good.